Before we start having a look at the implementation traps of AI prototypes, let me briefly sketch my company, DB Regio, first. DB Regio belongs to Deutsche Bahn Group. We provide regional public mass transportation in Germany, and doing this, our EBIT today makes almost 9 billion euro a year, and overall, about 35,000 employees make our services work successfully. Our current market share mounts up to roughly 2/3, and it reflects that the market opening in Germany that happened 15 years ago. Before this, DB Regio provided that regional public mass transportation as monopolist. Today, though, we maneuver ourselves in an established competitive environment where the public hand tenders out contracts, and typically those contracts are handed out for 15 to 20 plus years. And I can tell you competition is tough. And in any case, the tender gets decided on the price only. Now, the goal of our AI case itself should not be left unmentioned before we take a look at the challenges of its implementation. For this, it's probably helpful to briefly explain the structure of our competitively won contracts. Generally, any contract today gets decided on the price component as the only decision criterion. And during the tender process, many ideas of optimization of our operations already got priced into our tender calculation. So as soon as you won the contract, your utmost job is to start out initiatives to optimize processes, improve productivity, and reduce cost. These initiatives, of course, can help you to improve your financial performance on other contracts won in the past. With this, we lay our eyes on the most important value drivers of our contracts, and we start to prioritize according to the EBIT leverage. So the three most important value drivers are our quality of service performances, especially the punctuality of train services, then maintenance regimes for the rolling stock, and third, the productivity of assets and operating staff. Probably all of you once traveled by train and remember how important punctuality was to you, especially when connecting to other trains. And no need to say that this has quite some impact on customer satisfaction. You probably now imagine customer satisfaction is a key value driver. Unfortunately, it does not pay off in additional earnings. On the contrary, our contractual obligations are set up in such a way that any miss of quality levels, such as failed arrival punctuality, for example, leads to heavy penalty payments. And oops, with this, quite a big chunk of our earnings get lost too. When we look at the next page, Larissa, can we have the next one? Thank you. We try to avoid penalties for missed quality targets, and at the same time, we search for increasing productivity of our rolling stock. With this in mind, an idea for an AI use case was born, and the use case aims at a couple of goals. There is better quality performance by higher punctuality of train services offered, a productivity increase by offering additional capacity for train services with the same amount of rolling stock, of course, EBIT increase, needless to say probably, and then more satisfied passengers and less manual dispatching services by digitalization of the relative operative processes that lay behind. Next page, please. Saying this, with the use case, we aim at three targets. The one, a predictive tool that visualizes any implication of decisions that our dispatching staff wishes to make. And the second is an evaluation and implementation of an assistance system for the train dispatching with suggestions to the dispatcher of the probably best decision for the system of train services in total. And then a third one, which is a development of a dispatch decision by machine learning algorithms. So with our AI use case, we aim at a higher productivity of that rolling stock by squeezing out extra capacity for additional train rides. Unfortunately, this sometimes collides with our aim for punctual services, as any additional train ride can easily congest the network of train services and, so to say, also the whole system. AI, in this case, shall help us to improve the impact of our decisions by learning from interferences of single decisions with the whole train services network, and we train that AI model by past experiences and implement the prototype with a holistic approach, not on single-phased decisions. As usual, we started out with 4 phases of such a use case. One was the lab phase, which was a very quick proof of concept, then the prototyping, implementation, and the 4th, of course, a daily run. The use case got developed in a lab within only a few months, and the short period of time looks normal. Usually, smart consultants promise to deliver in an agile world a first proof of concept within weeks. So something solidly enough, but as lean as can be, got developed. And soon as this first phase was over, the winning of sponsors internally began. So our C-suite got proudly presented moving pictures of optimized train dispatching. And with this, they learned about capabilities of the AI tool. If you ask me, the impression to our execs was that the in-service date of this use case was within reach, so to say, only a few days away. What a promise. Soon to be implemented. Well, anyway, when we look at the next page, my experience with this one use case showed that a few months after the kickoff of the AI project, the lab phase ended, the prototyping, and thereafter the implementation began. We had consultants who worked out the touch and feel mock-up for our C-suite. They had left the project after those few weeks, and now the implementation of the prototype lies in front of us. The use case was developed only on the basis of a few thousand example data sets. I think that is normal too. There was no real-time streaming of data set in place yet. We had no evaluation of data done or preparation of data in place to run the routine list. And probably, I guess this sounds all familiar to you. Welcome to all, because now your journey of implementation begins as mine did. On the next page, and probably we stay with this one until the end of my part of presentation. When I looked at the pitfalls or the challenges of implementing the AI project, I stumbled over a saying of Stephen Hawking, where he says that any aspect of our life will be fundamentally changed by AI. And he says probably this will be the worst event in the history of our civilization. I couldn't keep myself from smiling, because he urged creators of AI to employ best practice and effective management. This is why I'd like to share with you my findings and draw the success factors for a rewarding implementation. And when doing this, I'd personally find it useful to talk about 2 categories. On the one side, I'd like to tackle the more procedural aspects of the implementation, and on the other side, I'll be referring to what I call the human factor. So let me start with the step-by-step items. What about the business fit of your use case? We find AI today almost everywhere. The number of use cases has been exploding, and there's no day that any one of us can avoid using them. AI is implemented in our smartphones, in the cars, in your own home probably, and that is interesting, but for business executives, that is not critical. You most likely ask yourself, how can AI help to solve my very practical business problems? And is AI the right answer to cope with my daily business routines? And one last question might be, how can I apply AI to create a true value proposition? AI is a truly powerful instrument, no question, but I think its intelligence only arises when it gets applied together with advanced analytics, and only technology helps to open up the potential of big data. So in order to ensure our competitive advantage or our market leadership, we need to analyze whether technology assists to solve our practical problems to create true values for our business. And the question I hear the most is, where are your pain points today? And please include to your list of questions the one about the importance and influence of process automation or machine learning on productivity and your financial results. As for the bullet point number 2, the easiest is to point out that finding and evaluating an interesting and rewarding use case might take some time. I'd suggest that you don't be bothered that your classical ROI calculation might not be your first focus. Rather start with quite small experiments. Failures should be allowed, and sometimes those are helpful too. They are helpful when you can fail fast, as your learnings out of this are important for your next moves. Sounds a bit like the management of the new economy. It's even worse. It should not only sound like it, make sure that you adapt this action to your management style. Now comes my personal most stressed success factor for any AI project. Open IT, or said in other words, no more data silos. Data silos are definitely in your way for any AI solution, because whoever wants to lead AI projects to success definitely has to work on a modern IT architecture regarding data. Only by this it is possible to gather heterogeneous data fast and in a simple way, to process data in an effective and efficient way, and also to manage your data successfully overall. Why does AI work? It's because of data and its governance. An open IT approach is state of the art and I'd say indispensable for you. Your AI teams need to be allowed to share the data with other AI practitioners in your company, and hopefully you provide full compliance with this. Only by this you provide the most important prerequisite for your real competitive advantage. And I'd say that is all in an analytics economy. Think big, start small, such just that you start step by step. AI needs a long breath, business-wise. No big bang. Well, no doubt you can find enormous potential in AI for probably any business model, but if you want to use AI successfully, go ahead step by step. I already talked about step 1 when you analyze your chances to create that competitive advantage. Realize your AI cases one by one and collect your experience with each use case. It's very helpful to look back and get a promise on not running into the same lessons learned again. Then I'd also say that your stakeholders make sure that they don't expect anything overdrawn. Stay on the carpet and start small. Use your experience from your previous use case to successively increase your value proposition. Skill set, as our next bullet, it's probably needless to say that your success of AI use cases also depends on the right minds in your team and the organization. The company needs suitable staff and resources for those AI projects, and it doesn't really matter if you hire new employees with AI know-how or further educate your existing staff, or if you purchase external expertise, so to say, consultants, or if you run a hybrid model. But be ready with an expert team that knows how to deal with data, a team that has advanced analytics know-how, a team that is familiar with agile work methods, and a team with the right mindset. And the last brings me now to the right-hand side of my chart, the human factor. If your company wants to work with AI, make sure that your staff is also open to AI. Not everyone will be excited about the chances. There might be the one or the other with worries and fears, and it might be useful to launch a change program This assists you to for each one to walk its personal way into this AI embossed world. Well, on my list of success factors, I pointed out ethics. To me, ethics, without it, there's no AI. Whoever develops or manages AI systems needs to be sure about its ethical implications from the very beginning. And I read in one of the polls of AI leaders that more of 90% of them already conduct trainings on this. AI itself can't distinguish between good and bad. And because of this, we need to implement processes and systems to ensure that your use of AI has no negative implication on your customers. And last but not least, also not on your company image. What this means to me, I'd say that whatever results AI delivers, we will always and only use it in an ethically perfect way. On the next bullet, I'd like to keep it very short on my next bullet point about controls, because controls to me are a must, not an option. And when benchmarking leading AI companies, I noticed that they put a particular focus on the value of corrupt output. We have special processes for auditing, and they would be eventually correcting the output where needed. Change management. We all know that advanced analytics is the motor for AI, but is your AI truly successful when your staff doesn't accept the change for the working methods? Probably not. So how can we assure that people get excited about it? As in the past, a profound change management needs to accompany the implementation, as this is a strong organizational change for all. And to accomplish this mental shift that's needed, you most likely start managing the transformation. And I suggest you create a roadmap. So start by setting up an organizational change management team and work out your communication initiatives. Have both in place before, during, and after AI implementations, because education is the key to adoption of new working methods. And I'm convinced that it's important that people throughout the organization understand the benefits of adopting AI. And the end of such educational activities is to dispel any misconception about it.